And I guess the first thing that we need to address is that our intuition is there to help us. I think a lot of us don't trust ourselves fully because we're worried like, oh, what if I make the wrong decision for myself? What if I don't know what's best for me? However, if we learn to tap into what is actually our intuition and not our anxious thoughts and follow that path instead, then we truly and this is me getting a little bit spiritual, but we truly don't have anything to worry about. Things work themselves out the way that they are meant to. Hi guys, welcome back to Try, Adjust, Thrive. I'm your host, Oksana Varas, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal growth, mental, spiritual, and physical, so we can stop surviving and start thriving. All right, my loves. So today, I want to debrief the title of Try, Adjust, Thrive. I want to talk about this show for newcomers, anybody who hasn't tuned in up until now, and just, a reminder to anybody who has listened to this show before, who's deciding to tune in today. Try, Adjust, Thrive is a lifestyle, all right? Try, Adjust, Thrive. The reason I chose this title was because I used to struggle so much with pushing myself outside of my comfort zone in fear of messing up, in fear of not doing what, I'm meant to be doing. I struggle with overthinking. And so I made this the title of this show because this show is all about humanizing personal growth. Because in the personal growth space, I'm sure that some of you have noticed, much like myself, that it can seem like everyone has all of their shit together when no one actually does. Everyone is literally just trying things out, doing the things that they are intuitively called to do, that they just have a gut impulse to do, trying them out. And then for what doesn't work, what they end up not feeling, they adjust. And then eventually they thrive. This is literally how we live life. This is how we navigate life in honestly the most constructive and productive way, in a way that reminds us that we don't have to have it perfect. The point is never to have it perfect, because we will never have it perfect, because as human beings, we are inherently imperfect. But that does not mean that in this lifetime, we are not going to be doing a lot of cool stuff, trying, adjusting, and thriving, and making space for mistakes, making space for growth, making space to change our minds, making space to expand, because that is literally what we are put on this planet to do. We are put on this planet to try, adjust, thrive. I just wanted to debrief that again, because it's really easy, even for myself, to forget the purpose of this show. And it's literally to just do this thing called life together. All right, guys. So with that said, I want to talk today with you all about trusting our intuition, defining our intuition, really discerning what our intuition is and how we can use it to make our lives a little easier on this planet. And we're going to talk a lot about the difference between intuition and anxiety. I have some notes written down that I'm going to be following along with. And I was inspired to talk about this because I myself have been stuck in my head a little bit. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of overthinking a lot of things. And what has that been doing? It has been masking my intuition. It's been making me feel less in touch with myself, less in tune with what I actually need and want and what is right for me, because I'm spending so much time thinking myself into a deep hole of thought. And for anybody who struggles with this, listen, you're not alone. But the good news is that there are ways that we can actually identify what is our intuition, what are our true gut impulses, and what is our anxiety. what could be possible trauma or conditioning that might not actually serve us. And I've been working a lot on differentiating these. I've also been speaking to a lot of other people about how they differentiate the two. And I guess the first thing that we need to address is that our intuition is there to help us. I think a lot of us don't trust ourselves fully because we're worried, like, oh, what if I make the wrong decision for myself? What if I don't know what's best for me? However, if we learn to tap into what is actually our intuition and not our anxious thoughts and follow that path instead, then we truly, like, and this is me getting a little bit spiritual, but we truly don't have anything to worry about. Things work themselves out the way that they are meant to. And whether you believe in a higher power or not, I truly believe that anybody can subscribe to the idea that their intuition is a thing and that you do have a guiding compass that genuinely is going to like tell you what is best for you and that you can trust it. And the more you learn to trust it, the stronger it becomes and the more good things will happen in your life. Like, I have seen it for myself. I have seen it for my friends. This is literally one of the tickets to just leading a more fulfilled, more aligned, more successful life. All right. So second thing I want to address is that our intuition is a very nurturing energy. I like to think that it's a very mothering, like divine feminine type of energy. So the thing about our intuition that I'm learning is that our intuition is this gut impulse that is not going to make you feel uneasy. It might make you feel a little uneasy in the sense that, like, oh wow, I'm getting this very strong, like, visceral reaction to something. I'm getting a very strong gut impulse that's telling me to think a certain way, and I can't necessarily explain it. However, it's going to make you feel at ease. It's going to make you feel comfortable. It's going to feel expansive and relaxing and freeing. And it's going to feel like this, like, deep knowing that you might not be able to explain, but you feel like you can trust it. That's like the big thing. Like, it's expansive, it's trustworthy. On the other end of the spectrum, we have anxiety. And if you have an impulse due to anxiety, it's not going to feel that way. It's literally going to feel the equal opposite. Like, it's going to feel constricting and it's going to make you tense. You will not feel at ease. And I think a great example of this is like when we are, interacting with potential partners, potential like love interests in our main character lives. I've found again and again and again that the men that I end up interacting with that are not right for me, even if they don't do anything to make me anxious, I feel uneasy around them, if that makes sense. Whereas the men that are actually meant to come into my life, that I'm meant to date, that are good for me, I feel at home with them without even really being able to explain it. It's like we've known each other in another life, or like oh my God, there's this guy there. I love this quote. Okay, actually I have to look this up because I didn't want to get it wrong. So in the movie Sleepless in Seattle, Tom Hanks's character, Sam Baldwin, he is talking about his wife who has passed away, and he's talking about her so fondly. And he says, it was a million tiny little things that when you added them all up, they meant that we were supposed to be together. And I knew it. I knew it from the first time I touched her. It was like coming home, only to no home I'd ever known. Okay, I'm such a sap for that movie, but okay, but so that in essence, I think sums up intuition in my brain. Like, it's like this feeling of coming home. So for me, whenever I've dated somebody who is actually right for me at that time, it's always that feeling of coming home to them. It's always that feeling of like, I feel safe around you. I feel like I don't need to question myself or feel insecure around you. It's this feeling of abundance, this feeling of like, expansion. Once again, the word expansion. On the other hand, we always end up finding people that we are attracted to, but don't necessarily make us feel that way. They make us feel the opposite way. Like we do get anxious around them. We feel like uneasy. We feel like we can't form sentences properly. And like, I don't know, at least this is what happens to me. Like, I don't feel like I can be fully myself around that person. Like, I feel like I have to front, and I feel like almost like they won't accept the full unapologetic me. And I just feel that for myself, as well as other people I've spoken to about this, these sensations in the dating process are very much representative of intuition versus anxiety. And just like in dating, we have to use our intuition to guide us in a lot of other aspects of life, right? So like I was just offered a job in Colorado, and it had nothing to do with the arts, but I almost took it because I would love to live in Colorado. And I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I really want to focus on this podcast and focus my energy on, creating in less conventional ways than just like being a performing artist, which I also love. However, at the same time, I think it would be a really amazing shift for me to just like focus wholeheartedly on this for a season of my life and see where it goes. But I digress. So like I was offered this job, right? And I almost took it, and I actually regret saying no, because it was anxiety that told me to say no. I felt this fear of leaving New York behind. I felt this fear of going and trying something new, because I've finally started to build roots in the city. I've finally started to make friends that I actually really, really love. And, a big part of me didn't want to uproot myself, even though I'm going to be really honest with you guys. There's not enough nature in New York for me. Like, there just isn't. And so, like, I've been wanting a change of pace really badly. And I've been afraid to admit that to myself. I've been literally afraid to listen to my intuition, because I've put a lot of thought and work into moving back to New York. And so the fact that I'm, thinking about leaving New York, it's like, oh, not again. Like, I just want to love this place. And I do love parts of it. I do. But at the same time, like, I have this gut impulse that there's just so much expansion for me and my life outside of New York. And I decided to stifle that, that impulse, because of fear, because of anxiety. But honestly, the true impulse, the true immediate feeling that I had when I was offered this job was nothing but nurture and safety and comfort and expansion and like all the things that our intuition represents. Like, it was just like, it felt like a no-brainer in my head. And then I overthought the process to the point where I was like, no. And then I literally texted the person, because I got offered this job through a friend, a family member of a friend. And I texted her today and I was like, hi, I'm an idiot. Are you still looking for somebody to fill this role? And she was like, girl, they just hired somebody yesterday. And I mean, I believe everything happens for a reason. I really do, because I just don't have room in my life for regret. Like, I just don't. And I don't think any of us should. Like, yes, I regret it to a certain degree, but like, it wasn't meant to happen. And I'm fully aware that I was meant to have this job offer and to overthink it and to make the wrong quote unquote decision, which I don't even think was the wrong decision, but like, I was meant to go through this journey of realizing, oh no, Colorado is what I actually want, or at least something like Colorado. in order for me to understand the difference between intuition and anxiety, for me to understand what it feels like when something is a full body yes, and what it feels like to stifle that full body yes, what it feels like to just completely derail yourself from something that can actually be really, really, really beneficial and expansive for you. But yeah, so she was like, the position was filled yesterday. And I was like, okay, bet. Well, just let me know if anything opens up in the future. I am very, very interested. And it is what it is. However, what that taught me was that, like, when we stifle our intuition, sometimes doors close. And it's okay that doors close if we stifle our intuition. It's okay that it takes us a few times of repeating the same pattern before we finally learn to trust our instincts and break that pattern and do the thing that was initially meant for us. That is okay, because it's literally all part of the process. Like, I find that it can be so mentally deteriorating when we get angry at ourselves for not doing the thing that we quote unquote should have done because we just didn't know any better. Like, it's literally so okay for us to not know until we know. And yes, I could be on a flight to Colorado right now, but that's okay that I'm not. Because honestly, I would have a lot of loose ends that I would need to tie up before leaving anyway. So, I don't think it really is the right time. But the fact that I was faced with that opportunity to really explore the possibility of leaving the city and realize that that is a very potent and very valid possibility, that I'm not stuck anywhere. None of us are stuck anywhere because we're all just trying, adjusting, and thriving out here, right? Right. So we can change things up. We can switch things up. But let's dive a little bit deeper into differentiating the two, right? So we talked about these feelings of expansion and relaxation in regards to intuition versus the feelings of constrictiveness and tension with anxiety. So next, let's talk about the sources. So the actual sources of our intuition, it's always coming from self-compassion. It's always coming from self-love. It's always coming from like our highest self, if you believe in that. It's always coming from this part of us that innately knows what is best for us. And it's not trying to like protect us from good things. Like, our intuition wants what will expand us. You feel me? So like, you don't have to worry that your intuition is like playing games on you. You don't have to worry that like you're broken. That's something that I was worried about for like a really long time. I was like, well, what if my intuitive impulses just like send me over a cliff? That's not going to happen. That's going to be your anxiety. Maybe your anxiety might do that, but your intuition is never going to do that. Your intuition is literally the best friend you didn't know that you had. That best friend that is never going to let you leave the party alone. That best friend that is going to hold your hair back when you need to vomit. That best friend, let's try to not have like a party alcohol example. That best friend that does not care what time at night it is, they will pick up the phone if you call them. Okay, that is your intuition. Our anxiety, though, that do be playing tricks on us. It really do. Yes. And that is because the source of our anxiety is insecurity. So when your anxiety takes the wheel and you're overthinking things and you're thinking, is this my intuition or is this my anxiety? Always ask yourself, is my thought process driven by a feeling of self-love, or is it driven by a feeling of insecurity? So the dating example for this is excellent, because if you are meant to be dating somebody, you are going to feel a level of self-love, self-trust, and trust in them. You're going to feel safe around them. If you are anxious about somebody that you're attracted to, you are going to feel insecure. You're going to start thinking, oh my God, what if they don't like XYZ about me? oh my God, like what if, like I need to hide certain parts of myself. I need to, idealize this image of what I think that they want in their heads of me and live up to that. Like that's what your anxiety is going to do to you when it comes to dating. Or honestly, like anything for that matter. Like if you're anxious about a job interview, if you're anxious about literally anything, it's always rooted in insecurity. And while our insecurities are super duper valid, I think that the less that we engage in activities or people or things that heighten our anxiety, the better, because that doesn't serve us. So like if you have a crush on somebody but they inevitably make you anxious, I'm sorry, but they're just going to bring out your insecurities. Like that is what they're bringing out of you. That is what they're heightening. Like especially if it's just from the get, it's not going to get better from there. And meanwhile, the person who makes you feel at peace, the person who makes you feel comfortable, that person that makes you feel like you don't have to really worry or overthink when you're around them, you feel like you could be your total just relaxed self, that's the person for you. That is the person for you, my love. And like this is kind of becoming a dating advice episode, which is not the intention because I'm navigating the dating world just as much as everybody else is, but I've gotten a lot better at weeding them out, weeding out the ones that are not worth our time. That's for sure. And that's why I'm still single, because I'm picky. But, and also I haven't found someone that makes me feel that feeling of safety yet. So anyway, I digress. So moving on, the thoughts that we're going to have when we are comparing anxiety versus intuition. When we are feeling an intuitive reaction to something, it's going to feel like we're sensing something. Like it is our spidey sense. Like that is the only way we can describe it. It is literally a deep knowing spidey sense. Like I just have a feeling about this. I can't explain it, but I just know. And I do find that as we get older, it's a lot easier to tap into this because we've just been on this planet for longer. Like we know, like we've observed the world around us. So our intuition is like a lot more refined versus when we're younger. So like once again, with dating, my intuition has become tremendously strong. There are people that I've met that I've gone on dates with that I'm like, wow, you make me feel so comfortable and at peace. And that's dope. And then there are people that I go out with and I'm like, I really like you, but I don't feel comfortable around you. Like I can't explain that. And that's weird that like those two things can exist at the same time, but they do sometimes. But being able to discern like, oh, this person makes me anxious. I don't care how hot they are. Like they make me anxious. So I probably shouldn't date them. It's that is truly a cool thing to be able to do. And it does come with time. But once again, I digress. So once again, intuition, spidey sense. Now, on the other hand, our anxiety, it's not going to be this impulsive spidey sense sensation. It's going to be overthinking central. Like our anxiety will try to convince us that it is actually intuition. And I find that is like one of the telltale signs that it's not actually our intuition, because our intuition is that gut impulse. It's that initial feeling. Whereas our anxiety will literally have us running in circles on a hamster wheel in our brains nonstop. And we're going to feel like we're going nowhere, and we're going to feel very scatterbrained, and we're going to feel like we've turned over every single rock in our brains. And while it is important for us to consider any decision from every angle, and like don't just blindly make decisions, I also do think that like there is something to be said about that gut impulse and learning to trust it, because I'm going to be real with you. Like every single time I've trusted the gut impulse, I've always come out a better person on the other end. I've always come out a more evolved person on the other end. I've always benefited in one way, shape, or form. And so just to elaborate on like the types of thoughts that we have when our intuition is guiding us, the thoughts that we're going to have are very clear and rational. Like they are based in reality. Like our intuition calls it as it sees it. And while sometimes our intuition will be like, oh, there's something deeper underneath the surface, usually Usually our intuition will make decisions based off of the facts. It's not going to like fantasize. It's to the point. It's like, no, what you see is what you get. And until I'm proven otherwise, like, I'm going to keep following my intuition. Versus our anxiety. The thoughts that we have when we are led by anxiety are a lot more intrusive, and they are very assumption based. It's like, once again, I just think the dating example is perfect. It's certainly very applicable in my life. So like if you've been dating somebody or you have a crush on somebody and they're sending you mixed signals, your intuition is going to be like, stay away from them because they're sending you mixed signals. They're making you feel unsafe. Whereas if you struggle with, setting boundaries with people like that, and which I've struggled with in the past, peace. However, if you're run by anxiety in the same situation, like you're going to want to make excuses for people's poor behavior. You're going to want to, idealize them in your head. You're going to get these intrusive thoughts telling you like, oh no, they are much better than I'm making them out to be. It's like, because like obviously we all want to feel love. We all want to experience an exciting relationship. And we all want to convince ourselves sometimes that like the people who are not necessarily right for us are right for us. However, at the end of the day, like it's always way more simple. Like, as they say, if they wanted to, they would, right? And so like, once again, anxiety, it's like these assumptions are made about this person. Like, oh, well, maybe he or she, they are just busy, or they, like, maybe they're just like afraid. Maybe they can't like admit their feelings. No. People, every single person on this planet wants to find somebody that makes them feel safe enough to coexist with in a relationship. Like, even if people fail to admit that, when you meet someone who you have the hots for, when you meet someone who is right for you, you're going to have a lot of trouble staying away from them. That's just, that's the way I see it. Like, there are people that I like didn't want to date in the past, but like they were right for me and I couldn't stay away from them. So like, I mean, once again, this is just becoming an episode on dating and I really don't mean for it to. So I'm just going to assume that like maybe somebody needs to hear this. Like, let's stop making excuses for people who are not worth our time. Let's start just living and breathing by the if they wanted to, they would mentality and save ourselves a lot of time and trouble. Because our intuition has self-respect. Our intuition is not going to let us make decisions that are not in alignment with what we deserve. Point blank, period. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the emotions that we experience when we experience intuition versus anxiety. So when we are having intuitive impulses, we feel certainty, we feel urgency, we feel conviction, we feel ready. We feel a sense of like, that just think, that is our intuition. It knows. It doesn't need a question. It is not the question, it is the answer. Okay. Meanwhile, our anxiety is very fear driven. It's very fear and worry and unease driven. Like, it is the question. Literally, I didn't even realize this, but like that sums it up. Like the question and the answer. Like, anxiety is the question. Fear. Whoa. I love that. I did not even realize that, but like that's it. Like, anxiety is fear, worry, unease. It's a question mark. Whereas intuition is certainty, urgency, conviction. It is the period, point blank. It is the answer. And last but not least, let's talk about some physical symptoms that we might experience when we're comparing the two, because they're real. Like, the mind-body-soul connection is so much more intertwined than I think we give it credit for. And I've found that like when I have an intuitive response to something, it's a gut impulse, but it's not like an upset stomach. It's like, I know, like people say our gut is our second brain. And I really, really do believe that. Like, and I mean that sometimes people mean that in more of like an actual clinical way, but I do think that it extends to our actual intuition. Like when you feel something is right, like when you meet someone that you really like, you feel butterflies in your stomach. You feel a gut impulse when you feel headstrong about something. You might also feel tension, and I feel like that tension is almost like this like embodiment of a feeling of urgency, right? Meanwhile, anxiety, on the opposite side of the coin, I really do believe that anxiety has the power to like give us an upset stomach. Like, y'all, I've like gotten IBS when I've dated people who are not right for me, who like, or like when I know a relationship, oh my God, when I know it's time to end a relationship and I'm like not ending that relationship, I get IBS. But it's like stress affects our body, right? So this literally is not that far fetched. Like when our anxiety is taking control of us, it is very easy for us to feel these physical symptoms of like an upset stomach. Also, racing heart is a very, very common one, obviously. Like my sister sent me this post. It was like a quote by some elderly woman that I cannot put my finger on. And she said that like when you are looking for love, that the right person is not going to make your heart race. They're going to make you feel at home. Just like the Tom Hanks quote that I loved so dearly. Also, I wrote down sweating and tension. Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but like in the dating world, and I guess I can extend this to like the rest of life in general too, but like in the dating world, like I'm just too exhausted to like deal with someone who makes me sweat. That sounds draining. Like I'm just trying to find someone to coexist with and like ride this wave of life together. And I guess we can use that knowledge or that mindset and extend that towards other aspects of our lives as well. Like, I think exciting job opportunities should definitely make us feel nervous, like a good kind of nervous. But I think what's right for us will always feel maybe not comfortable, but it'll always feel in alignment with us. It'll always feel like we're making the right decision. We feel safe in our decision, even if it's maybe like not the most safe move. Maybe it's a little bit more unconventional or outside of the box, but when we do it, when we make that decision, like it just feels so right. There's no question mark. It's not ever a question mark. It is a point blank period. Like that's how I felt when I started this podcast. I literally felt a point blank period. I was not worried one bit about the outcome of this. I literally was just like, this is what I need to do, because I felt every fiber of my being just tell me like, this is in alignment with what you need to be doing. And at the time, it was just like a hobby, and I guess it still is, but like it's becoming more, like I care more about this now than I used to. It's like, yeah. Anyway, that's besides the point. So to summarize, we've gone over everything. I just want to go over everything one more time. When we examine the feelings that we get, when our intuition is speaking to us, we feel expansive, relaxed. And when we are experiencing anxiety, we feel constricted and tense. We are examining the sources of intuition versus anxiety. Intuition is always driven by self-compassion, while anxiety is always driven by our insecurities. When we are looking at our thoughts that are led by our intuition are feelings of sensing, and they are clear and they are rational. Meanwhile, our anxiety is run by overthinking and assumptions and intrusive thoughts. The emotions that we're experiencing when our intuition is speaking to us is certainty, urgency, conviction, point blank, period. And our anxiety is run by fear, worry, and unease? Question mark. And lastly, the physical symptoms. When we are experiencing our intuition, we experience an urgent tension and we experience a gut impulse, a positive gut impulse. Meanwhile, our anxiety will bring up possible upset stomach. It'll make our heart race. It'll make us sweat. It'll create unhealthy tension. And that's all she wrote today. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I feel like I made some realizations in the process of creating this episode, literally in real time, which is pretty dope. And I would love to hear from anybody who listened to this episode. And I would love to hear how intuition and anxiety appears in your lives and how you've learned to differentiate the two. And if any of this resonated and, just like reach out, guys. I want to talk to you guys. Like, I want to hear what people feel and think when they tune in to Try, Adjust, Thrive. And on that note, I want to just remind you guys that you are so awesome. And I'm just so grateful for this community. And I'm so happy that we get to tune in every other week and just shoot the shit. And I want you guys to know, like, how amazing each and every one of you are. And I just have to say something, and I'm going to tell you guys something that I've been needing to hear this past week, getting a little vulnerable. And if you guys don't feel like you need to hear this, maybe share it with somebody that you do think needs to hear this. But for anybody who might be struggling with any sense of like uncertainty or confusion in their lives, or just like maybe a feeling of stagnance or a feeling of, just not knowing what's next, or maybe feeling like just confused in some way, shape, or form in life, just know that like you're doing an amazing thing. Like, you're doing the best that you can, and that life is going to unfold the way that it's meant to. It really is. And trust that you are doing enough along this journey, and trust that you are trying, adjusting, and thriving. And even when you feel like maybe you could be doing more, or maybe, you're not good enough, like, zoom out and really focus on all the incredible things that you've accomplished, and zoom out and reevaluate anything that might be bugging you or anything that might be making you feel insecure. Zoom out and really like allow yourself to consider all the ways that you actually are doing better than you think you are doing. And if you want to like reach out to me and like chit chat about it, like, let me know. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please follow, like, and subscribe. Do all the things. If you like this episode and you want to follow me on social media, all the links are in the show notes. And lastly, as always, be kind to yourself. All right, guys. Have a great week. Mwah.